Hello and welcome to a special Nerdaholics video. My name's Jack and I'm starting this news video series called Let's Rewrite. I'm going to basically rewrite a movie, game, book, something, just to see if I can make it a bit better. Now the one rule for this is that I cannot change too many of the details. I have to keep as much of the original material and content as possible, and we'll just see how it all works out. Now, as a tester, I'm going to start off with the Hobbit movies because, as you've probably heard myself and Sean mention in previous videos, there are some changes I've made to that, and ultimately this is probably going to be the easiest one to test whether this is actually a good idea for a video concept. So please in the comments do let me know if you like this and if you want me to do more of them. If not, yeah, we can come up with something else. We'll keep more of the drunken Jack and Sean talking head videos. Just to let you know, this is gin and Coke, so keeping up their standards. Right, so getting started. In terms of the first half hour or so of the movie, the Hobbit movie, there's a lot of fan criticism about the fact it's a little bit slow. Now, I'm not too worried about that myself. I would keep that pretty much as is. A lot of bits and pieces in there are fine. Realistically, the only thing I would change is probably the singing, and the only reason I would change that is because it doesn't occur in any other movie after this. It's literally just the party scene and the one scene with the Goblin King in this first movie. So if you're not going to keep it going through the other films, it's not as necessary. If they had done other singing in the rest of the stuff, yeah, I could see it. I would keep it. Maybe potentially just keeping the Misty Mountains bit because that's more relevant to the story than the whole Blunt the Knives song, which is arguably quite fun, but yeah. Most of the bits and pieces we've got are going to stay the same until we get to Radagast the Brown. Now, Radagast the Brown isn't a problem for me. It's just how his scenes play out. Basically, the only thing I would change is I get why they did it. I'd get rid of some of the bird poo on the side of his head, though. He's meant to be a very nature-loving wizard. I get that, and that is the point of him in the books as well as this movie. There is a limit. You could remove some of it. That's a small cosmetic change, and maybe tone down the whole hedgehog being sick. If you had the same scenes, but rather than him trying to heal the hedgehog, just like that one animal that was ill, and had it be a bit more about he was trying to heal some trees, I don't know, but he's like a bit more out in the open while spiders are kind of crawling down, and he's trying to use magic to heal things, and that's what scares the spiders off. I think it needs to be a little bit more wide scope than just a hedgehog. Small detail, nitpick rather than anything else, but it's a change I would make. We're going to keep the trolls. The trolls and their scenes are going to play out the same way. But do remember how that fight played out when you watched it. Give that fight scene a watch and remember it, because I'm going to come back to it. We then move on to the chase, Radagast leading the wargs away while the company is running on their way to Rivendell. I'd probably sort of change it a little bit so that rather than drag it out for as long as it went, you could cut it, because Radagast meant to be leading them away, and it seems a lot like he was basically running around following the company and all the wargs are chasing him, so it's like they're not really getting away. You've got to make it feel a bit more like they're getting away, and then maybe the warg rider at the end of the pack smells something, and that's when they will turn around afterwards and then go back after the dwarves. But we'll see. That's something I would have changed. Again, it's something to make it feel like it makes a little bit more sense. One thing that's going to change now is after the warg riders have been attacked and killed by Elrond and his elven riders. You've got this scene where they go to Weathertop. The orcs go to Weathertop and they report to Azog the Defiler to say that look, we failed, sorry, please don't kill us. Then they die. Here's where I'd make my first big change. It's not Azog standing there, it's Bolg. One of the big problems that quite a few people had and why they made the change in Desolation of Smaug, at least my understanding is from what I've read and seen, is that people are like, why is Azog the Defiler still alive? He got killed. I know it was deliberately left open so he could be back in terms of how the movie played out, but in the book it was a straight up, no, Azog died at that battle and Bolg went off seeking revenge. I think that's a fairly good motivation, and it makes it it feels better because it's a case of Azog the Defiler is just a horrible orc king who fought the dwarves, and when the dwarves tried to reclaim their homeland, he died in battle, The orcs kept Moria, but because there was just too many of them, the dwarves had to retreat because they didn't have enough to actually take the fortress, and take the old mountain halls. And but Bolg, being the spawn of Azog, would be out for revenge. It's like, you killed my father. That I think is a very suitable motivation for why the orcs would be hunting him. He's got his band of wild riders. One little change I would make at this point is Bolg would be the big one. He would be obviously, when they film these movies, they have like big heavy set stuntmen for making the movies. You'd have like the biggest, heaviest set stuntman be Bolg, and everyone else would be like the normal stuntmen that you saw in Lord of the Rings that did the hunched over orcs. Mainly because you want to give the sense that this guy's big and badass, and when a lot of the orcs are big and badass, it doesn't really make them feel as threatening. It's kind of like, oh yes, he stands out because he's pale orc and he's missing a hand, he's got a claw thing there instead. He stands out, but by the same token, it's like, you know what, if you've got dwarves and elves and men killing these things left, right and centre, which you'll see in Battle of Five Armies, they become less intimidating, because it's like, oh yes, you're obviously bigger and stronger, but you're being killed by inexperienced fishermen. So that'll be Bolg there. You make maybe a couple of linguistic changes in the dialogue. You don't have to call him Bolg, and maybe in the flashback when you saw Azog the Defiler fight Thorin Oakenshield outside Moria, you don't really show Azog. Or maybe you do, but then you don't really show Bolg. You have him a bit more in shadow, so you can think like, oh my god, that's Azog, he's still alive. But then at the end of the movie, the reveal would be that it's Bolg, his son, and that's how you play it. At least that's how I would play it. Now, I would put a bit more of the White Council stuff in that was from deleted scenes. If you haven't seen the extended version of the movie, they make reference to one of the 7 rings of power that were given to the dwarves. Thorin's father had it, and it was lost when Thorin's father went missing. The problem with that plot point is it's only runs for the extended versions of the movie and doesn't appear at all in the Battle of Five Armies extended version. Now, someone please correct me if I'm wrong, if it does get mentioned there or does shown or something, because if I had to guess the intentions of Peter Jackson, I would say that the original intent was going to be that Azog the Defiler had that ring, and that's what helped him stay alive, and that draws a parallel with him being like Sauron, which is something they were trying to do over the course of the movie. At least that's what I saw. You got a great big dude running around with a mace, smacking dwarves around as if they were nothing. And then at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, you've got a great big dude with a mace smacking elves and men around as if they were nothing. So, you know, it's kind of, you can see the imagery there and some of the other things they were trying to compare it with. The stone giants on the mountain, cut that completely. That can be something that would go into the extended version of the movie that's released on Blu-ray and DVD. You don't need that in the movie. It's, you know, you could make a couple of references and maybe have like 1 or 2 of them walk around, but you don't need to see them fight. You don't need them nearly falling off. You could have the rock hit the top of the mountain like it does, and the rock fall down. You don't even have to show the rock hitting the top of the mountain, but when the rock falls down and nearly knocks Bilbo off the edge a bit, you know, you could do that without having to put anything, having the stone giants in there at all. And again, like I said, the extended version of the movie, you put them in, and then there you go. Then we get to Goblin Town. Bilbo and his riddles and the dark stuff with Gollum was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Wouldn't touch a single second of that, because that was Andy Serkis and Martin Freeman being absolute legends of acting like they are and doing some really good stuff. So I'd keep that. The escape from Goblin Town, as in the actual running away from the goblins as Gandalf's leading the dwarves out, is very poorly edited in my opinion. It's quite disjointed because it's lots of just random cuts of little bits of action scene that are all pasted together in a random order. So they start off running down one pathway, all of them on the wrong path, and then the next scene is you've got half of them running on an elevated platform while the rest are running on a lower platform. This is just after Dwalin and a few of the dwarves knock loads of goblins off. Now, if you watch some of the special features, you can see that they had sort of a plan where they showed like the trailer, a plan of how the chase was going to go and how they were all going to escape. and how they kind of got split up, and then how they regathered together again. The editing for this didn't follow. It just kind of all seemed to be in random places, running away and ending up in. It all kind of gathered together at the very end. But I feel the editing of that should have been better. But here's my big change for this, and the really upsetting thing is, this one's actually a fairly obvious change. Now, when I said to remember the troll fight, this is what I'm referring to. When you watch the troll fight and then you watch this chase, there's something you'll notice. The dwarves are not working as a team in this chase. They're working as a team against the trolls, because 13 dwarves against 3 trolls in just like a straight up running at each other kind of fight. Okay, yes, the trolls were taken by surprise, but it's not like a proper ambush. They just ran at them from the bushes. After a couple of seconds of surprise, it's kind of like the trolls, to my mind, should have been able to win that, because it's a, just pick up a dwarf, squish. But they didn't, and you could see at various points they were going for that. But then you've got things like the dwarves working as a team, like jumping, like giving each other legs up, and like firing arrows, and bloody dwarf with the catapult. That's just ridiculous. Sorry, that bothers me. We'd give him a proper weapon. So maybe he's given a crossbow. So you've got one dwarf with an actual bow, and this dwarf has a crossbow, because dwarves in other works of fantasy generally have crossbows. It's not a big change. It wouldn't be a significant issue when you've seen crossbows in the Lord of the Rings universe before. 60 years later, used by Isengard, so it wouldn't be completely out of the realms for a dwarf to have a crossbow. But the thing about this chase that bothers me is that you know that they have filmed scenes where the dwarves are all working together to do various bits and pieces. You can see a few of them, like when they use the ladder to knock loads of goblins over and then use it as a bridge to get across to the other side. There is a scene where Boffa, he's running down that pathway on his own, he gets cornered, there's goblins coming from either direction, and then Oin's staff, that's what it is, because he's got the bow staff thing. And then like 3 dwarves pull him up onto the rope above, and the goblins run into each other and fall off the edge. And okay, that's good dwarven teamwork. And then in one of the trailers, 2 dwarves, Oin and Gloin. Oin goes first, running along the path. Goblin's climbing up the side. Oin knocks the goblin's hand, so the sword gets knocked out. And as the goblin goes, runs back round, Gloin walks past, smacks him in the face with an axe. Little things like that. Those little touches are the things that made the dwarves believable as a group. They all had each other's backs, and they were all working together to fight. And they just didn't have that in the chase. And the thing is, with those 2 examples I just gave, you can see both of them were in the trailer. And even more worrying is the first one, where Boffa's getting lifted out of the corner, is actually on the theatrical release of the basic DVD. It's part of the opening menu of the footage being played in the background. So you can see that they had the images filmed and finished and ready to go. They just were cut for whatever reason. So, moving on, the dwarves meet up with Bilbo outside. They then get chased by the wargs and Azog. But this time it's now Bolg. That's when you get your reveal that it's actually Bolg. It's like you've got this pale orc. You've had the description of him, and it's like he comes a bit more out of the shadows because he's riding this big warg. Thorin's like, "You're not. Who are you? I'm Bolg, son of Azog. You killed my father. I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill you the rest of your kin." Ha 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 ha. So just to finish off the first movie, the big change is Azog is gone. Bolg is now in instead. The rest of the movie can play out the same way. A couple of small editing choices and changes there. Moving on to Desolation of Smaug. This is where some of these little changes have a knock-on effect. The opening scenes can play out the same way. The little flashback of Thorin going to the prancing pony and seeing Gandalf. They can play through the same way because that builds up tension. The first big change is going to be outside of Beorn's house at night. You've got Bolg standing there with the warg riders. Because in the original movie, that's when you introduce Bolg on a warg. He comes in to Azog and says, "You are summoned. The master wants to speak to you at Dol Guldur." This is where we'd have our first big change. Maybe a few goblins would come through the bush, and Bolg would be like, "Who the hell are you?" And they'd be like, "We're tracking the dwarves. They killed our king. They killed the Goblin King. We want revenge." And then this is when you could have a moment of, say, Bolg being like looking at Beorn's house, looking at the goblins, and something clicking in his head. Where it's like, "Where are your goblins now?" They're waiting back at the mountains for our word for where to go to get them. So Bolg said, "I know where they are. Follow me, and you can have your revenge. And the goblins would, yeah, goblins would be up for that. Let's be honest, it's like they're going to follow the big tough orc who's going to help them get their revenge. That's when Bolg would say, I know of a fortress, Dumbledore, bring everyone there. So you'd have Bolg lead the wild pack to Dumbledore and meet up with the goblins. So, because there are tons of goblins there. Because you saw during the chase scene, there's thousands upon thousands of goblins. You could easily turn that into an army. Maybe Bolg doesn't know exactly how many there are, but it doesn't matter. Point is, he's got a big horde of goblins now, all getting ready, all at Dumbledore. Moving into the rest of the Bayonne scenes, there was a scene that was in the extended version that I would put back in, which was the dwarves introducing themselves to Bayonne in the morning. I thought that was quite nice. I think that's a bit funny. That was something worth keeping. And you could have Bilbo pick up the acorn that you see later on. The dwarves take the ponies. They go to the outside of Mirkwood. Gandalf makes the revelation, sees the sign of Sauron, and then goes. All fine, all good. The bits of the stuff in Mirkwood with the spiders, that's fine, I would keep that, I'd have it play through the same way. The first sort of real changes you would have to that would be when you're introduced to the Wood Elves. Tauriel is basically removed from the movie completely. She is an unnecessary character. I don't know what she was in there for, to be honest. She would be removed from the movie completely. And all the stuff that she's got, in terms of what she says and does, would be given to Legolas. Here's why. Legolas, in terms of his character development, would be that if I'm remembering the Hobbit book correctly, it basically says that the dwarves are taken before the Wood Elf King and his court. Now, his court would be his family, his advisors. If you get rid of Tauriel and give sort of his fighting stuff to Legolas, and give some of his stuff to Legolas, her stuff to Legolas, sorry. Because then he has more of a reason to be in the movie. He's like, oh, I'm a bit more headstrong. I don't want to sit out when the world's being destroyed. And you could have that be more of a conflict, because there's meant to be a conflict between Legolas and his father. And if it's really just a case of, oh, because I fancy this girl and my dad will let her marry me, well, considering that's not really mentioned, it just kind of has to be inferred a bit. And you can see that they do make one reference to it in Desolation of Smaug, that Thranduil's not going to let it happen. Legolas go off with her, and then even then she doesn't really want to anyway, so it's kind of like it's a bit redundant. In terms of the Mirkwood scenes from there, it's just basically removing Tauriel. She's not necessary, and anything she does, like combat wise or story wise, could really be given to Legolas, and it would actually help push this point that if King Thranduil is meant to have a connection, and if they're meant to be sort of at loggerheads with each other and not really getting on, this would make more sense. The scene where Tauriel goes in and sort of reports to Thranduil about Spider Nest, if that was Legolas, it would make more sense, because it would fit a little bit better and make it work a bit better as well. If Legolas comes in and says, like, look, if you just let me go to Dumbledore and kill the spiders at their source, problem solved. And he's like, no, you're my son, your place is here, and we're not really that concerned with what's beyond our borders, so don't. And it's kind of, you could see that working a bit better. It would feel a bit more like it flows. We then start to get more scenes of Dumbledore, because this is where the big changes are happening, in terms of, it's this extra side stuff that's where the changes are happening. After Gandalf and Radagast have seen the Witch King's tomb, they head to Dumbledore. Now what will have happened is, as Bolg gets to Dumbledore, he would bump into the Necromancer, which can be revealed as like the shadow of Sauron at that point. And you can then get Sauron to say, like, I will give you this army, destroy Middle-earth. And Bolg will be like, okay. And basically Dumbledore will be little more than a great big empty armory. Maybe more spiders, maybe more wargs, old weapons, and sort of lots of black magic and ring wraiths sort of stalking the place, but nothing more than that. So the idea would be that Bolg then brings all the goblins in there, and then starts kitting them out for war, because the Necromancer has told him to at that point. Now, this is where you're getting the Orc army for the Battle of Five Armies. It's going to be predominantly goblins, with maybe 100, depending on how big Bolg's orc pack is going to be, of bigger orcs. which would make more sense because you've got then an intimidating core as well as just a massive horde. Lake Town, I probably would have them get smuggled through a little bit quicker and easier, mainly because there's Lake Town. Okay, I get why they spent a bit of time there because you need to build up that place so when Smaug attacks it, you feel bad for the people who are there. Maybe the dwarves get caught straight away as they're trying to get smuggled in or something. I don't know. Then you can have a few more scenes of Lake Town after the dwarves have been accepted by the master of Lake Town. You got the scene where Bard and Bane are walking through Lake Town back home, and you've got all these people doing these little gestures to each other to let them know that he's coming, as like a spy thing. And it's like, okay, that's what, a minute and a half. That's effectively silly or not necessary at all. And even if you wanted to keep that stuff in there still, you could cut out nearly all the middle bit of it and just have it like them start walking, and it's like one person seeing a signal, so you get ideas, they're all signalling each other and he's going home. And then, or you could even just have Bard walking saying, yeah, I know you guys are spies, there's your apple, tell the master I'm done for the day. The golden dwarven statue. I think it's probably best it wasn't there at all. Because you could come up with something, maybe the dwarves go down, instead of going to the forges, maybe they go into one of the old armories and find a black arrow and a wind lance, and they fire it at Smaug, not killing him or even really injuring him, but just enough to piss him off. So he goes, because he's going to think, I'm going to go burn down Lake Town to make you guys suffer, then I'm going to come back. I don't know, because the gold statue thing is like the setup for it, going through the forges, or even if they just go through the forges and they like cut the wires so it starts not bothering Smaug to the point where he gets pissed off and wants to make them suffer. That would work, but just having the gold statues, like they forge it, or they fill it with liquid gold to the point where they can do it, and then they open the stones, the mould, it stays there for like a minute and then it collapses on him. It doesn't flow very nicely. It's snowing outside. So, Battle of Five Armies. This is where the biggest changes are going to happen, because the biggest problem with Battle of Five Armies is that it's a CGI clusterfuck. It is a bit of a mess. It's all over the place when it actually comes to the fighting. Now, I can see what they wanted to do. They wanted to make a big battle scene to rival one at the end of Lord of the Rings. The battle at the end of Lord of the Rings was fairly well written. It was very dramatic. Obviously, there was a change being that the army of the dead was there when they weren't in the book. I like that change a bit more than the book version, because it's just an army of like another 5,000 men just appear. Oh, okay, so another 5,000 men are going to fight off 200,000 orcs just through sheer weight of numbers. That shouldn't work. Before we start off the movie, we have another flashback, and it's going to be Thorin talking to Dane. The reason that this is going to be there is because you're going to have to get more set up for who Dane is, and they make reference in the first movie, Unexpected Journey, to Thorin being at a meeting of the dwarven leaders, the dwarf kings, and that no one's going to help them. That it's their quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain, and that's fine. But let's use that as a flashback. Dane's talking to Thorin before the meeting or after the meeting, just before Thorin leaves to go to see Bilbo at the party. Because it gives you a bit of introduction to who the dwarves are, in terms of, well, Dane specifically, because it's kind of, that's what you're going to need, because in the movie he just kind of turns up. And I know in the book there's kind of like, okay, they've sent a message off with the Raven, who then brings Dane, but in terms of the time and placings of everything, it's a bit odd. Now, what you need, if you set up that through that flashback, is like, look, Dane's like, look, Thorin, I'll get an army together and I'll have it on standby. You send word, we'll come and retake the mountain, but we're not going anywhere while there's a dragon there. Something like that would basically fit purposes fairly nicely, because then when the Raven goes off to do the signal, which you see in the movie, when the army turns up, it's not so much of a surprise. After that flashback of Thorin and Dane, you have Smaug come in, taken down by Bard. Love that. Bard's got the biggest cojones of anyone in the Lord of the Rings universe, because he kills a dragon, and he goes after a dragon with a bow and arrow, which he knows won't kill it, but he's doing it anyway because he has to do something because he's bad at it. Now, we won't have Alfred the butler, the guy in the black robe, black coat, who follows the master around, because he's a pathetic waste of space. He's not funny, he's not interesting. What would be better, if you want to have that position exist, is have that be the master of Lake Town. Because you could keep most of the dialogue the same, and it would still be interesting, but it would make a bit more sense if he was the one who survived and he's the one who's being like this. It would also make more sense that people would want to lynch him, because Alfred's just just effectively a butler. He's not that important. I mean, he's an asshole to the people around him, but he's no one on the scale of anything. Whereas the master he was the reason that there were problems, because he was the one in charge of not doing anything about them. And then everyone saw him trying to leave the town while it was being burnt by a dragon. Instead of trying to help, he's got all the city's gold on a boat, and he's trying to go down the river and escape. It's like, the men of Lake Town are a Dale. You then got the elves then turn up, give them the food, and then that's giving you a setup. You then have the men start training with the elves to kind of get a little bit of combat experience before they go into potentially a military operation, because that's what they know is kind of coming. What you've got then is you've got 4 armies now established and ready to go. You've got the elves, the men, the dwarves, and an army of goblins. Now, if you want to add trolls to that, yeah, add trolls to that. In terms of how the battle's actually going to play out, how it plays out in the book is that you've got these 2 sort of rocky outcrops either side of the main door. You've got elves on one side, men and dwarves on the other side, and they can come down the sides to kind of pincer the goblins in the middle. What happens is some of the goblin force goes around behind and starts pincering the men, elves, and dwarves. So you basically got this great big swirling dervish of stuff going on. Now, in terms of how the actual battle plays out, I think what you've got isn't too bad, but you've got to make it more visible, and you've got to make it a little bit easier to understand. What you've got at the moment, like I said, is a CGI clusterfuck.